Hi, my name is Helia Singh and welcome to my show, Wealth Coaching with Helia Singh, the fastest way to build wealth. Hello everyone, my name is Helia Singh. I'm a wealth coach and now we are here with the next series of our podcast. And this time our podcast is all about migration to Australia. Such a great topic, and as we know, especially after COVID, there are so many people like to come to this piece of heaven in the earth, because it seems Australia has been less affected by COVID comparing to other countries. I don't know. That's why I'm here to find out from the experts. And as a wealth coach, we are just here to help people to, find and establish wherever they are and go in the new countries, such as Australia or anywhere else. But yes, and now we want to ask the experts to help us find out more details about that. And today, as our first guest, is Mr. Nicholas Houston. He's from Canberra, and I'll just give you a bit of background about him. It's very, very impressive. I was just blown away by reading his profile. And as a senior legal officer, Nicholas was involved in transforming Australian government migration policy into legislation. Wow, the work involved comprehending both the policy implication of proposed changes, but also the inner workings of the Migration Act 1958, the law upon which the Australian visa program is based. Wow, as a senior lawyer and migration officer, I'm very, very honored to have you as our guest. Thank you very much for accepting our invitation and hope you are well.
Well, thank you.
To our show.
Thank you, Helia, for giving me the opportunity to speak on your podcast and to hopefully answer some questions that you might have or people might have about moving to Australia or what it's like to have migrated to Australia.
Wonderful. Thank you a lot. Right. Without further ado, I'll just jump on the question, if it's okay. Okay. The first question is, what are the main reasons people want to migrate, especially to Australia? Of course, we are talking about Australia.
Yeah, we've now been working as a migration lawyer for practically 20 years, and a lot of our clients have come out of South America and Mexico and Latin America. And I guess like many parts of the world, it's very varied, the people that we're helping to migrate, and their reasons are very different, but there's some common reasons. And basically, I think people are looking for a stronger economy, because in many parts of the world, there's high unemployment rates and wages and salaries can be very low. And people can be very highly qualified, but are not being paid at a rate commensurate with their qualifications. And people then sort of realise that that salaries are quite good in Australia, and decide to make the move for economic reasons. So that's one thing, better paying jobs. Another thing is stability, because in many of these countries, a change of government can create a crisis of confidence in the administration of the country, or the economy can suddenly go into some kind of meltdown, or hyperinflation can hit, and people can have life savings wiped out through these kind of economic events. As well, political events. Sometimes countries are not so stable, and there can be all kinds of excitements that can occur, from outright coup d'etats to even sort of the process of changing government can be fraught. And people don't want to get caught up in that. People want to get on with their lives and do their jobs and run their businesses and not have to worry about the country going into some kind of collapse. And of course, Australia has been very stable with the parliamentary democracy, and it's been like 25 years of sort of uninterrupted economic growth. So it's an incredibly stable environment in which to raise a family, or to run a business, or to work professionally. So that's some of the reasons people migrate. Other reasons can be less corruption. Yeah, corruption is just it's a problem in many parts of the world, and it is annoying that to see people unfairly gaining advantage because of contacts within government. Violence in Latin America, Mexico, criminal violence can be a motivation with kidnappings and hostage taking and sort of random events, and people can be moved purely for the children, for to avoid those kinds of issues. So social services as well. Like in Australia, we have a functioning government. There's a very high standard health system, high quality health system. The public schools are good. You actually get some value for your taxes. People are generally happy to pay taxes if you see value coming from them, which can be quite a thing that people resent in countries where people are paying taxes but don't see the value of the spend. So, there's a whole lot of reasons that people migrate, but they are some of the reasons that we've seen that our clients have indicated for why they've decided to start the process and move.
Oh, that's great. Thanks for sharing that. I'm an immigrant to Australia, so I came here 26 years ago from.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So definitely I relate to that everybody's reason is different. But every day I'm grateful for the life that I have here and for the opportunity to live in this country. If people are ready to put the work in, so that they will see the result for their effort in every way, financially, freedom, happiness, and better future for themselves and their family.
Yeah.
Totally agree with you. Well, our next question is this, that what do you think the biggest challenges for people who come to Australia after migration?
Yeah, well, everyone, after you've arrived, it's the challenge of settling in to a new country, and it's a new language, and there's different ways of systems functions differently in each country, and you've got to register for the tax system, and you've got to enroll your children at schools, and you've got to start looking for a job. Probably the biggest thing is finding that first professional job. Depending on what your work is, you've got to work out how interviews are done in Australia, and how you need to apply for a job and what you need to say at the interview, and then you've got to get that first job and get on top of the language, and work out how people relate in the workforce, and how your skills that you're bringing with you then translate to practical working life here. And so that is the main challenge. But once people have that first professional job, then I think people are away, and that is the main issue. Obviously, English is a question. You've got to pass an English test to be able to migrate, but then there's all kinds of accents and terrible, incomprehensible Australian accents that you put in front, and not everyone will be speaking a professional language as you move out of the area of work. So, that's always it. So the better level of English that you can have, honestly, the better. And also family members as well, because of course, if you're speaking, for example, Iranian in the family environment, and you've got good English, but perhaps your partner, will not be having the full benefit of the exposure to English in society if you keep talking to her in Iranian or whatever the language is. So you've got to make sure that family members as well come along in that journey. With children, it's fine. They are very quick to get on top of the language. And in fact, then the challenge becomes to make sure that they, have fluency and ability in the family language. So that becomes another issue. But so it's basically, and people then have to be prepared for a period of adjustment, and it might be a year or two just to work things out, and to have a couple of jobs that aren't the ideal job, because you've got to build up that experience and contacts and so forth. So that is probably the challenge that I've seen that people face in terms of adjusting to life over here.
Yeah, that's great. In my experience, obviously, both as an immigrant and as well as being a wealth coach, I've seen that people, even though they are professional, they come to this country and they are not aware of the system, especially the tax system or money system in general in Australia, because in many countries, we don't have that much legislation or the laws so clear compared to what we have in Australia. Over there in many countries, so probably tax is just something that is done through somebody, yeah, nobody cares what's going on, and they think that okay, it's the same system here, and they get caught out.
Yeah.
With
Well,
that.
some occupations like engineers and computer professionals, buildings stand up, whether they're in Tehran or Adelaide, and so that's fine. But if you're working in business or tax, where there's some different systems of law and regulation, or even business where it's about relationships, and then you've got to kind of come to reform those relationships to make your skills actually mean something again. So it can a little bit depend on the kind of work that you do, the process of adjusting.
Of course, and to get the information, because over here finding information is very much easy compared to other countries. That look, after all, everybody, whether we are a business owner or employees, or whether we are doctors or engineers or a teacher, we all have to pay taxes. We all have to comply with certain rules and legislation in the country, and there are ways to learn to do that, or at least be aware of what we can do and what we can't. And this is at least I always promote that my clients, that they need to learn these things. They don't need to do an MBA or to another course in to become qualified, but at least to be aware of what other things are different here comparing to their country. So then later on they will not get into trouble with laws. Because with finance and investment, one thing I know is you can't just undo it. So, you invest money, you put money in there and then say, oh, that was a mistake, let's go back and rewind. It's not easy. Sometimes to go rectify the problem is much more costly than, not to do it.
That's right. And then you've got to be registered to be able to, in Australia, to be able to give financial advice. And so there's all of these other different systems that you need to relate to and understand. And professionals are there to help.
That's right.
Basically, but nothing is going to be done exactly the same, which is except to say that if you're coming from England or Canada or New Zealand or part of the British Commonwealth, in many cases systems are fairly similar to Australia. But if you're coming from other countries, Latin America, some European countries, or Iran, Turkey, or China, the cultural systems will be quite different, which is not a good or bad thing. It's just it's just they're different.
So now it just goes to this one, that how migration agents can help these people who wanted to migrate to Australia to find their place or find a way to come here, or the best way to find here.
Yeah, well, I mean, one of the benefits of the Australian migration program is that it's based on legislation. So there's sort of reasonably well-defined criteria that you have to meet to be able to migrate. So the first thing is, the question is, do you have the profile to be able to migrate? So it's a legal assessment that needs to happen. And then an explanation of, well, what will it cost? How long will it take? What documents will I need? So that is all the work of a migration agent, to provide that advice and just to get a little bit of reality under the idea that you might have that you want to move countries. So then with that advice given, the next part of the work of a migration agent is to help people prepare applications. So, it's like, and that is the work of any lawyer. So it's like the Department of the Australian government is the judge. And if you present a body of evidence that can satisfy the judge that you meet the legal criteria, the visa will be granted. So, in a sense, that's the work of an agent. There's other processes. You need to have your qualifications assessed. That's done by different organisations. In some cases, you have to apply for state government nomination. That's another process. You have to have a certain level of English. You have to have medical exams and police clearances. So it's a fairly complex, involved legal process involving proving through documentation evidence that you meet criteria. And migration agents, we have to have qualifications. I'm a lawyer. And a migration agent, we have to update our skills and qualifications every year to be able to do this job. But basically, migration agents are the experts in dealing with that process effectively, and then we're paid for that work by our clients. And it is a process, and it can take, depending on government policy, perhaps a year or 2 years to go through that process. In some cases, people need to come to Australia to study, first. So there's a pathway where you might come and do a master's degree for 2 years and then apply to migrate without needing to return home after that course, or there's other courses and other pathways. So it can be quite complicated and complex. There's different kinds of migration visas, and companies can sponsor people. There's business visas if you have a business or are an investor. There's skilled visas for people with qualifications and work experience in demand, independent visas, family visas in some cases. So it is quite complicated, the different options that people have. And but anyway, there's but it is possible. People do migrate, people do get through the system, and and then are welcomed into Australia. And basically the pathway to citizenship is quite quick. It's after living in Australia for 4 years and being a permanent resident for 1 year, you can apply for Australian citizenship without having to renounce your previous citizenship. So, and then you've got the 2 passports, and you're, part of the great Australian multicultural community, people from all over the world.
That's great, definitely. Yes, it is for those who are born here. So I always tell my friends, Aussie friend, that you don't have the privilege of not to worry about migrating to another country and being worried whether your application get rejected or not, or to settle in, and obviously learning a new language. When I came to this country, I came as an adult, so I had to learn English as an adult. So I don't know how difficult it is, and then especially as a professional person, because you not only you need to learn another language, then you need to communicate within your profession with that language. So it's a lot of work to do, but definitely it's worth it. So now going to the last question. In your opinion, do you think Australian laws is attracting more of entrepreneurs or employees? I mean, like when I say employees, skilled migrant, or is it both? Or what's the proportion?
Yeah, well, I mean, that's a decision for the government, the balance of the migration program, and to what extent the government will be looking for sort of high-flying, well-resourced business people who can come in and create businesses in Australia and therefore create employment and opportunities for Australia, or to come in and invest. And that's considered to be an important part of the overall migration program. The other side of the program is getting skilled professionals, but also trades people, carpenters and cooks and other occupations like that, who then come in and are employed in Australian businesses. And that is also a great benefit to Australia, the skilled visa program. So at the end of the day, the government keeps a close eye on what is happening with these different programs. And I mean, how many of these applicants are being successful in terms of relocating their businesses to Australia, or, managing their investments here. As opposed to, whether the skilled migrants are actually contributing more. So the government does its homework and will make adjustments moving forward to the balance of the migration program. There's another component, which is a global talent visa, and that would be academics, for example, that have a lot of publications and are fairly prominent in their field. PhDs and holders, and it can be across sort of medical research and all kinds of different industries, actually. So the government's always got its eye out for people who can contribute to Australia and the Australian economy. And of course, there's, even honestly, if you're a cook, if you're a chef, there's a shortage of chefs in Australia, and it is not impossible to migrate as a chef. You don't have to be a high-flying from Hong Kong with businesses worth hundreds of millions of dollars to migrate. You can be a qualified but carpenter, chef, motor mechanic. So it's very diverse, actually, the program, and I think that's a good thing.
Great, no, that's wonderful. I believe obviously you help people to migrate to Australia within the legislation. How can people get in touch with you, and what is your best advice that where they can start from?
Yeah, well, so the name of the organisation is VisAustralia, and we've got a website, and on that website there's a very sophisticated self-assessment tool basically, and it has all of the occupations that are in demand in Australia, and it'll take into account all of the factors that are relevant to whether you can migrate: age, level of English, qualifications, work experience, what your partner does, what her level of English is like, or his level of English, and it'll spit out very quickly your visa opportunity.
Oh, wow.
So that's the Visa Australia website, www.visaustralia.com. And that is the first place to go to have a look at your options there. And then with that, the second thing is to organise a time for a legal assessment. And we'll go through in very great detail the kind of visa that you may be eligible for and an explanation of how it all works. Yeah, so that's how we work, and people are welcome to contact us and have that interview, do the self-assessment online, and start this incredible journey.
For sure, it is. Definitely, we will put these details on the bottom of the videos. Okay. People can see it, and also it is in there in the caption. Just in case, to my audience, you are not able to find for whatever reason, there was some typo mistake or something. Please get in touch with us. We will send you the details so you will not miss it. It's the best to go through this journey with someone who is. He's a lawyer. Come on, what else you want? That's the way to come to Australia, and yes, and make that dream come true. Because I know for those who are living back home and other countries, yes, this is absolutely the life-changing event to come to this beautiful country and start a life.
Yeah, it's a tremendous opportunity. It's a tremendous opportunity, and if you don't like it, you can always go home.
Exactly. I doubt that.
There's beautiful countries, beautiful people. Yes. This can be something to add to whatever is the beautiful thing happening in your country. So you don't need to be fearful. You just need to get out and start.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. And I love this multiculturalism and so much the diversity of Australia, that people love different food, different culture, different clothing. It's just, you never feel homesick that way in Australia, because everywhere you go, you will find something from your own background or your own country. So it's a beautiful place to live in, and being a home away from home. So that's to me, Australia is like that. Really appreciate your time, Nicholas. Can't thank you enough for your information and being our valuable guest. It's such an honor.
Thank you, Helia. I appreciate the opportunity to speak to your blog and to work with people that might view this. But thank you again, and very nice to meet you. And thanks for the opportunity.
Welcome. See you then. Bye.
Okay, see you. Adios.